Why is it like that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. Okay.
How do you,
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. But tonight, Brandon is not here.
Nope.
So we have Shaye in the house.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get started on tonight. We're going to start with our statistics, which we normally do. So last week, we were talking about challenges that arise in the blended family. So we're going to pick that up because we did not finish on last week. So we'll pick that back up tonight. But let me give you the statistics that we also read on last week. Number one was stepdads are more common than stepmoms. Point number two, less than half of all blended families even read articles about what it means to be a step parent or seek out advice about remarriage. Most people will remarry within 4 years of their divorce, and 30% of people remarry within 12 months of being divorced. And then lastly, 56% of children have no contact with their biological father in the first year after a divorce, and 1 in 4 kids has not had contacts in 5 years. And you probably can even attest to that because although you were about 9 years old when me and your dad first separated and went through divorce, that you yourself can testify that within that first year.
Actually, I think it was 3 years that, after they separated, it was about 3 years before we even saw him. Like before we had a system in place to where we saw him, on a regular basis. So it was about 3 years for us. And to this day, it's been about 2.5 years since I've spoken to him now. So I somewhat fit in.
Yeah, so you would be in that 56% of children who have no contact with their biological father within that first year.
Yeah.
So statistics are just what they are.
Yeah.
Witness right here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's lesson. Oh, and I already told you guys, Brandon is doing some other stuff tonight, some other ministry work. So miss you, Brandon, but we're going to carry on. So again, we're going to be talking about challenges that arise in the blended family. Last week, we talked about fights between children / sibling rivalry. Children sometimes have a problem with sharing their parent with others. They can't accept the fact that their parents are now mother and father to another child or children. They can't accept the fact that the other child or children will be receiving or getting love from their parent. This can be expected, though, in, a blended family, a new family. One of the solutions that we had for the fights between the children, which you guys didn't really deal with that because our son wasn't in the home,
right.
So you guys didn't actually have to deal with that sibling rivalry between sharing me with someone else,
right?
Except for with my hubby.
Right.
So,
right.
So one of the solutions for overcoming that challenge, parents should address challenges individually with each child separately to help them better understand the dynamics of the new family, get an understanding of what the child is dealing with or what that child is feeling, and then come together as a family to bring unity between the children. Okay, number 2, argument among spouses and ex-spouses. At times or often, Partners in remarriage and their ex-spouses end up arguing about different things. This can lead to a tremendous amount of tension among them and even lack of or no communication at all. This can even bring tension into your new marriage. And one of the solutions we had for that was find a better way to communicate. Even if you have to have your new spouse deal with your ex, draw boundaries with your ex. Don't argue. Don't do this, especially don't do this in front of your children. And you may, because you want your children to see unity between you two. Just like for us, for our example, for us is that even Brandon dealt with you guys' dad because that worked a little bit better for us. You know, not that he and I couldn't get along, but it worked better with him dealing with you all's dad.
Right.
So you just have to find a way that's going to make it work. Number 3, misunderstandings, miscommunication, or no communication. Once you enter into a new marriage and become a blended family, the dynamics would definitely change. There are times where there will be miscommunication or misunderstandings. Sometimes even no communication at all. Miscommunication and misunderstandings and no communication will also bring about stress into blended families. It typically causes unwanted issues to arise in the blended families. Also, be careful of facial expressions, because your facial expressions are also a form of communication. So always watch your face. Watch how you looking and acting with your face. So one of the solutions that we had for that was schedule family meetings, do family dates, outings, gatherings to develop communication or to be able to better communicate one with another. You want to create unity and build a productive, loving relationship with one another, because doing that, it helps the the family to run smooth, have peace in the house. So now we're going to start with, did talk about this one last week too, but since we have Shaye here, we're going to let her expound a little bit on this, because she was actually in the home and she'll be able to talk about some of her change in attitude or her behavior. So last week we ended with acting out and misbehaving, a change in attitude. In blended families, you will find that children or your child will act out for many different reasons. At times, they feel like they're divided, not getting the same treatment, the same love, the same attention, or whatever the case may be. There are many times you may see a family member that used to be happy or used to smile all the time now demonstrate unhappiness, frustration, and sometimes even depression. Unfortunately, the blended parent, which has come into the family, is normally the one they tend to take their frustrations out on, or their reason or excuse for why they're acting the way they do. And usually that is the reason, because you brought in another parent into that home. And sometimes the children feel like that parent has come in and they've taken that parent now away from them. Like in our dynamics, it was me and my daughters before Brandon came along, and we spent, a lot of time together. I had said in a previous broadcast that my bedroom was one of the places that we all would just lay in there on my bed and, sit on my floor and, just have fun and have conversations. And sometimes they would just sleep in there. So then when he came along, all of that changed. So when that other parent come in, the children's attitude can change for many different reasons. So we're going to have Shaye talk a little bit even about that, because she actually experienced that. So what you say, Shaye?
Okay, well, actually, before we get into the change in attitude, I think that it's important that one of the things that you do discuss when you're considering a blended family is to notify the children of the changes to come. At least then they can expect to see change, or know that, okay, in a house full of women, now that mommy's getting married, we can't walk around in t-shirts and panties and no shorts. or no pants. Like, that's something that we can't do anymore. And, when you get to a certain age and you always have to put on a bra when someone is in the house versus being able to wake up in the morning and walk out the room all willy-nilly. You know what I mean? That's stuff that you don't have to worry about when the dynamics is just one sex in the house. But as far as acting out and misbehaving, there are a lot of what was mentioned that I've experienced, as far as not getting the same treatment, the same love, the same attention. So before my mom and Brandon got married, like she said, the bedroom was one of the places that we would go. We watch TV. We all laying in there together. We would spend a night in her room. We did. We had our conversations, and that was life as we knew it. And when he came in the picture, of course, now we have to knock before we can come in, and most times we're not even allowed to come in the room anymore, so he took away, or not he, but the relationship took away what we considered our sanctuary. That was the time that we bonded with my mom the most. And so when that was taken away, what were we given? We didn't feel as though we had a sanctuary anymore.
Right.
So that was a very big challenge for me. I'm a talker. I'm very emotional. I like for people to know how I feel, what's going on with me. And if I can't express that, then other feelings come about. So I wasn't happy. I was depressed. I was frustrated. It started coming out at school. It was coming out at home. My mother could tell you that I was always one to do whatever I could to please her.
Yes.
Anything she told me to do, I did. I was a straight A student up until
well, he ain't here, so
he's not here. He's not here.
He might be on here.
He might be live. You see,
we gotta watch.
Okay, so I'm sorry. No, so I was a straight A student, until he came in the picture, and changing my change in attitude was me crying out for help, but not knowing who to go to seek the help that I needed. I didn't know how to express myself. You know what I mean? In a way where they would hear me and understand what it was that I needed, or what it was that was lacking at this point. Remember, there was a time where I would have anxiety attacks for no reason. Like, we didn't know where it was coming from. I had to go see a neurologist, and they had me sitting and talking to people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you have to understand that there are a lot of issues that can arise if you don't take proper precaution when bringing someone new into the household.
Yes.
Again, I was doing well in school before he came into the picture, but my grades started dropping. I didn't go out a lot. I actually couldn't go out until 12th grade. After they found out I was going into the military, then they want to give me freedom. But, they're like, oh, well, you don't have a curfew. So for the most part, I came home at a decent hour.
Right.
But after a while, I just, it was like, oh, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want. They would lock the door at a certain time. So if I wasn't in the house before then, I didn't get in the house. I had to find somewhere to go. So that wasn't funny though. Back then we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would have to go to the payphone or go to somebody's house. Like, can y'all open the door? I'm across the street. But
yeah, but that is true though, because you were one that was happy all the time, happy go lucky. You were never, a depressed type child. You smiled all the time, and truly you did do whatever. I mean, you did anything that you could do to please me. Anything.
She could tell me to jump off a bridge, and I was like,
at that time she would have jumped off the bridge. Okay, mommy. So her attitude, it did change. It really did, and then it kind of put me in. A bad place, because with your attitude changing and you're not understanding, the changes, and you're crying out for help, it kind of put me in a place of, okay, so how do I now get you back to where you needed to be, and also still do what I needed to do, as a wife. It put me in a place like I was in the middle. It was like, almost made me feel almost like in a tug of war, when you have that rope and you have a person on each end, and it's being tugged back and forth, who's going to win, so in this, in a change of attitude, I think that, everybody, all of us probably had a change of attitude, because I can even go back to times and things that I felt I may not have shown it outwardly, but inwardly, I was dealing with a whole lot of different emotions and stuff too, because I also try to figure out, okay, who do I talk to? Who do I go to? Where do I get help from? Because I've never been really, the type of person so much that I just run to people and tell people what I'm going through, and then at that time, coming into a blended family, even for me, was difficult, because there wasn't a lot of information even, for me. So everybody's in that house at that time, attitude changed in one way or another. And in the beginning, it wasn't always for the better.
That is true. It definitely took time to get it to the point, to where it is today.
Yes.
And as for my older sister and I, we didn't have as many years in the house.
Correct.
With the blended family as, my younger sister. My older sister, she was, a year out of the door anyway.
She was 16, going on 17. Right. So it was, the ages was like 10, 13, 16, getting ready to be 11, 14, 17.
Yeah.
So
and I left shortly after, 2 weeks after I graduated.
Yep.
Yeah, after I graduated high school. But like I said, I went into the military. But what's so funny about that is I was like, oh, I can't wait to get out this house. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. But I went into the military when they were just as strict, or sometimes even stricter. You know what I mean? But it turned out to be a good thing for me. But I think that those years really shaped me into the person that I am today, and being a mother, a single mother. Whereas if I do get married one day, I will be in a blended family. It highlighted the things that I don't want to deal with, that I don't want to put my children in, certain situations.
Correct.
But then it also showed me the things that, what to look for in a man. Because, my dad initially was, a good enough role model, who I looked up to.
Right.
But when I met my stepfather, and when our relationship began to grow, it showed me even more the type of man that I would want in my life and in my children's lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He's very responsible, and he's very caring, and I could go to him at any time. And I think I said on one of the previous broadcasts that I sometimes will talk to him or call him before I call my mom about certain things or whatnot. And, not saying that her advice isn't as good or her ear isn't as available. It is. Right. But, sometimes just certain things I need to know what he thinks,
Right.
how he feels.
Correct.
You know, I want his advice. I want to know what he think I should do in that
Correct.
situation. You know?
Yes.
So
yes, and let's go back to something that a statement you had made about going into the military right out of school. So now, did you go into the military because that was something that you really wanted to do, or
No.
did you go into the military because you was looking at that like a way
out.
Yeah, a way out.
I was looking for a way out. I knew that, because my grades had dropped, I wasn't making the grades that I needed to be able to go to college anymore. You know, not without having to pay for it. Or, you know, well, I wasn't going to have to pay for it, but mommy was going to have to, you know, pay for you would have to get financial aid or whatever. But I knew that I did not want to have to depend on them for anything. And the only option that I knew at the time was the military. And it was the Navy that just happened to recruit me first. And I was able to sign my own paperwork because my ship date was after I turned 18. Remember that day, Mom? She was fussing.
Yes, because I did not want her to go. And at that time, and I knew that you were leaving because of that. You know, I knew that that wasn't something that you really wanted to do. I knew that you were leaving because you wanted out.
Yeah, I wanted
you
to
know,
get away.
because things had changed, you know, dramatically from the way that it was. So I knew that was your way out. And at that time, there was like nothing that I could really do to keep you there.
Right.
So, you know, I dealt with a lot of emotions at that time, you know, because I felt like I played a big part in that. You know, for me, it was like, okay, what could I have done different, you know, to keep her here, or what could I have done to stop her from going into the military, you know? So, but hey,
we're here.
we're here now.
Yes.
So,
and the military was it actually turned out to be excellent for my career, for my life in general. But you know,
but even with that though, even like some of the stuff that you dealt with at home, you were probably one of the ones. I remember you had told us one time that when you got there and some of the drill sergeants were like yelling and saying stuff, you at times would laugh because
in their face. I would get in trouble for laughing.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this is all you got? Yeah.
Yeah, to me it was a joke because I knew like, oh, well, they can't put their hands on me, so I don't have anything to worry about. You know, I didn't mind the yelling. I didn't care about that because you know, listen, I was the good child.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
I was not a headache. At least not when I was younger. But you know, so being the child that, you know, do exactly what mommy say, and I just felt like, you know, like my sisters, they used to jump me when we were little. Remember they tied me to the bunk bed with belts? Yeah.
Are you on here?
So, you know, so I mean, like, so being the child that I was and loving my mother unconditionally like I did, you know, it really hurt to see that, you know, at one point where I could talk to her and say, hey, mommy, you know, this is what's going on, whatever, she would jump at the opportunity to fix it. Like when it came to my sisters, they hit me, they jumped me. I knew that she was handling that, you know, but when it came to her husband, finding out later that, you know, a lot of the conversations they had were behind closed doors. It wasn't something that we saw because at the time I didn't see it. I didn't know that it was happening.
Exactly.
Okay, so I felt like she was always taking his side. Mm-hmm. She wasn't listening to what we were saying, you know?
Right.
And it felt like my complaints were going, like it was going on deaf ears, you know? So,
and we're actually going to talk a little bit about that too. about parents defending the behavior of their child or children, but we'll come to that in a moment. So back at the acting out and misbehaving and a change in attitude, one of the things that we had that is a solution for that is building a trusting and loving relationship with the child or children. And you want to do this with the children individually. This will show them that you love them and they are part of your world, and it gives them the attention that they desire when it's just a one-on-one thing with them.
Right. And that is, I think, very, very important for the incoming parent. You would want to make it a priority to show each child individually that even though I'm here to marry your mother or your father,
Correct.
Know that you are part of this union as well.
Correct. Yes, that's very important, because sometimes, when the marriage happened and the blended family develops, sometimes the children don't feel like they're part of it.
Yeah, we don't feel included.
Right. So and that would cause them to, act out or misbehave or have a change in attitude, because at that point they're seeking attention then. So they, you do anything to seek that attention, because now you feel like that attention that you used to get is now on that new parent.
Right.
Okay. All right. So actually the next one kind of tie in with the one that we just talked about, but it's decline in performance. The tension that arises in blended families affects the parent, the child, the children, even outside of the home. At times you will see a decline in the child or the children's performance at school. You had already spoke about that, as well as the parents sometimes show a decline even in their performance at work. Yeah. It can also affect them in many different activities that they may be involved in, and desires to perform in greatness or the desire or wanting to please that parent will also decline.
Yes.
And you did talk a little bit about that, because you did used to aim to please. I mean, anything that would just make me smile, you would do it. Yeah,
and and the best way that I knew to show you that, or to make you proud of me, was through my grades. That was the one thing that I knew, that regardless of anything else, if I get good grades, mommy's going to be happy. And my grades were better than my sister's.
Don't tell them.
But seriously, because I had good grades, and I know my sister's grades were not always as excellent, I knew that, okay, mommy's very proud of me because I done brought straight A's home again, or I got all A's and a B. You remember that time I got a C on one of my tests?
And you cried.
And I cried because I thought I was going to get in trouble.
She used to be a cry baby, y'all. She would cry. Oh, I'm sorry.
So anyway, so I did aim to please. And, once the dynamic of the relationship changed, or the change in the household,
right?
I no longer cared to please mommy, because I felt like mommy wasn't doing what she needed to do to ensure that I was okay. And I mean, for a while I was still doing what I could to please her, but you get burned out. And when you feel like, you're giving, and nothing is reciprocated, after a while, you'll be the fool to keep giving,
Right.
So,
that was good. That was good. So, one of the solutions that we have for that issue right there, or, that challenge, is ensure that everyone is in a comfortable, loving environment. When one feels comfortable, when they feel loved, it encourages them to bring about that positive attitude. If that's a positive attitude that they had before, when you show them that love, when you show them that what they're doing, they are appreciated, it helps them to get that positivity back, to get back to that place where, oh, okay, mommy she is seeing what I'm doing. It does matter to her. It puts them back on that positive track.
Yep.
You agree?
I do agree.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the next one. And we kind of touched it just a little bit. Parent defending behavior of the children or the child. At times you will find that the parent will defend the behavior of the children or the child, which will sometimes cause issues in that home, in the blended family. You will find that they will make excuses for their behavior. You may also find that the absent parent can be uncaring of the attitude or the behavior that those children or child may demonstrate because they are no longer in the marriage and they are still hurt from the divorce or separation or breakup of their family.
That was partly like that last statement was definitely one of the things that, one of the reasons that I think that my dad, kind of took a large step back, because there was times where he was trying to reignite something that was no longer there with my mom, and I felt as though because he couldn't work things out with her, what was the use for us,
Right.
So
Right.
that definitely.
And actually, we're going to have to pick back up from right here on next week because, guys, we are out of time.
Yeah.
But we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight with me and my middle baby, one of the bestest middle children that you could ever have.
I'm the only middle child.
That's why you're the best middle child that anybody could ever ask for.
The best child.
Anyway, but again, thank you guys for tuning in on tonight. Remember to share the broadcast so that someone else will be blessed by it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want us to address, you can email us at
weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
one more time.
weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Thanks, guys. And don't forget to tune in with us next week, Tuesday, 7:30 p.m.
Good night.
Love you guys. Good night.